Hello friends, this is Rashmi Singh. Welcome to my channel Unraveling Science. Let's have a moment of science please. Don't let what you can't do stop you from what you can do. How do animals reproduce? Class 10, Chapter 7. In this video, we are going to learn about what is reproduction, asexual reproduction and its types, sexual reproduction in plants and animals. What is reproduction? Reproduction is a process by which living organisms produce new individuals similar to themselves. Why do organisms reproduce? For the addition of new species, for replacing the dead organisms, for continuation of race of that species. Do organisms create exact copies of themselves? Every organism is made up of single cell and each cell has a chromosome in the nucleus. The chromosomes have DNA, that is deoxyribonucleic acid. DNA is responsible for the transfer of characters from parents to offsprings. As it is a biochemical process, it may not be reliable and will lead to variation. As a result, new offsprings will have a slight difference from the parents, which forms the basis of variation and evolution of new species. So, organisms cannot create exact copies of themselves. Types of reproduction. There are two types, asexual and sexual reproduction. In asexual reproduction, it is simple and rapid method of reproduction, whereas sexual is complex and lengthy method of reproduction. Asexual requires no involvement of gametes. Sexual requires the fusion of female and male gametes leading to fertilization. In asexual, single parent is involved. In sexual reproduction, two parents, male and females, are involved. In asexual, cell division takes place either mitotically or amitotically. In sexual, cell division involves meiosis at some stages, especially during gamete formation. In asexual, offsprings produced are genetically and physically similar to each other, whereas in sexual reproduction, offsprings are genetically and physically not similar to each other. In asexual, reproduction does not lead to evolution as there is no genetic variation. As sexual reproduction increases the chances of genetic variation. Modes of asexual reproduction. There are following modes: fission, fragmentation, regeneration, budding, vegetative propagation, spore formation and tissue culture. Fission. The term fission means splitting. It is a process of reproduction in which parents or unicellular organisms split or divide into one or more identical daughter cells. It is most common and simplest method of asexual reproduction in unicellular organism. Example is bacteria, protozoa and fungi, etc. It is of two types. Binary fission. It is a process of single cell divides into two identical daughter cells, each carrying one copy of genetic material. It occurs during favorable condition. Example is amoeba and paramecium, as you can see in the diagram. Next is multiple fission. In this type, parent cell divides into many identical cells at the same time, occurs during unfavorable condition. Example is plasmodium, as shown in the diagram. Fragmentation. In this mode of asexual reproduction, parent cells break down into small pieces of fragments. Each fragment then develops into a complete new organism. It is found in multicellular organisms having simple body structure. Example, hydra and sea anemone, as you can see in the picture. Third is regeneration. In this type, development of new organisms occur from broken or cut part of the parent organism, as shown in the diagram. They have specialized cells which are capable of redividing into mass of cells from which they can differentiate into different types of cells and tissues. Fourth is budding. In budding, a new organism is produced from a small projection called bud. When a parent cell divides one of its nucleus, move into the outgrowth which grows larger and eventually gets mature and separate from the parent. Example is hydra, as you can see in the diagram. Fifth is vegetative propagation. This type of asexual reproduction occurs in plants. New plants reproduce from detached vegetative parts of the plant like root, shoot and leaves under favorable conditions. Example, potato, onion, ginger. It is of two types: natural vegetative propagation. In this type, new plants are grown without any human interference. They propagate from plants parts like stem, roots and leaves. By root, sweet potato; by stem, potato; and by leaves, biofilm is developed. Artificial vegetative propagation. In this type, new plants are grown by humans on lab or fields, and this is done by various methods like by cutting rows, by grafting, example is lemongrass, mango, and by layering, example is climbing roses and honeysuckle. Sixth is spore formation. As you can see in the picture, in this type, offsprings are produced through reproductive structures called spores. Spores are defined as asexually reproducing body having thick protective walls produced during unfavorable condition. These spores or cells can be produced into new organism when they come in contact with suitable medium like moist surface. Example, rhizopus. Tissue culture. It can be defined as the process of growing living cells artificially in the lab. As you can see in the picture, living cells are separated from the growing tip of the parent plant and then placed into artificial medium where they divide rapidly to form small groups of cells or callus. The callus is transferred to another medium containing hormones for growth and differentiation. The plantlets then placed in the soil so they can grow into mature plants. Sexual reproduction. This kind of reproduction involves two different parents, male and female. It involves meeting of germ cells known as gametes. These gametes are haploid, that is, they have half sets of chromosomes. The male and female gametes combine to form diploid zygote. The zygote undergoes repeated divisions to form new organisms. Sexual reproduction in flowering plants. The flower is the reproductive part of the plant. It consists of following parts: petals, sepals, androecium or stamen, gynoecium or pistil or carpel. Petals are bright color structures which give color and fragrance to the flower. It attracts insects. Sepals are small part that looks like leaves growing at the base of the flower. Androecium is the male part of the flower and gynoecium is the female part of the flower. As you can see in the diagram, petals, sepals, stamens or androecium, pistil or gynoecium. So the stamen consists of two parts, anther and filament, and pistil consists of three parts, stigma, style and the ovary, which contains ovules. The mode of sexual reproduction in plant is pollination. Pollination is the transfer of pollen grains from anther of stamens to the stigma of carpel of the flower. The pollen grains are transferred by various agents called pollinator like air, water, animals, etc. As you can see in the diagram, pollination is of two types: self-pollination. In this case, transfer of pollen grains takes place between same flower or the flower of the same plant. Like as you can see in the picture, from flower A to B, and cross pollination. In this, transfer of pollen grains takes place between two different flowers of different plant of the same species, like from B to C. Fertilization. After pollination, fertilization occurs. Fertilization is a process of fusion of male and female gamete to form zygote. The pollen grains which has landed on stigma then slipped into the ovary to a structure called pollen tube, and it enters the ovule where it combines with female egg to form a fertilized cell called zygote. You can see the ovules as shown in this diagram. After fertilization, zygote divides several times and forms embryo within the ovule. The ovule changes into seed and ovary turns into fruit, and the rest of the part of the plant dries up and falls away. Under favorable conditions, the seed grows and develops into new plant. To know more about fertilization, watch my video on fertilization in plants. I will give you the link in the description box. Reproduction in humans. Humans become reproductive active from the onset of puberty. Puberty is the period during adolescence when the rate of general body growth begins to slow and reproductive tissue begins to mature. In human males, it is between 11 to 13, and in females between 10 to 12 years of age. In case of boys, beard and mustaches appear, voice begins to crack. In case of girls, breast size increases and menstruation starts. The human reproductive process requires two kinds of sex cells or gametes, male or sperm, male gamete or sperm, and female gamete or ova or egg. As you can see the pictures, sperm have tails and are therefore motile, that is they can move freely and are produced in large number. Ovum is bigger, non-motile, and only one ovary is produces one ova in 1 month. Gametes are haploid, that is they have half sets of chromosomes. 23 chromosomes, they fuse to form diploid zygote, 46 chromosomes. Male reproductive organ systems. It consists of following parts. Testis. Testis is there is a pair of testes which lies in the skin pouch called scrotum. Scrotum is suspended outside the body below abdominal cavity, which helps in maintaining the temperature of testis below body temperature, which is necessary for optimum sperm production. The formation of sperm in testis is known as spermatogenesis. Testis also produces a male hormone known as testosterone, which helps in the development of secondary sexual characters in male as well as for spermatogenesis. Vas deferens. It is a tube that carries sperms to seminal vesicle. Seminal vesicle is a place where sperms are stored. Secretion from seminal vesicle and prostate glands add up to make the semen. Urethra. It is a common passage for urine as well as for sperms. Female reproductive system. It consists of following parts. Uterus. It is a pear-shaped hollow muscular organ. It is a place where embryo gets implanted and develop into a newborn baby. The wall of the uterus provides safety and nutrition to the growing fetus. Fallopian tubes. One fallopian tubes come out from each side at the top of the uterus, and the fallopian tubes end in finger-like structure called fibrillae. Fertilization takes place in the fallopian tube. Ovary. There are two ovaries, one near each fallopian tube. The ovary produces eggs. The formation of ova in the ovary is known as oogenesis. The ovary also produces female hormones as estrogen and progesterone. These hormones are needed for the development of secondary sexual characters in female as well as for pregnancy. Vagina. The cervix or the mouth of uterus open into vagina. Vagina is the muscular tube-like organ which serves for the passage of sperm and also for canal during childbirth. Fertilization. When the sperm enters into vagina, it reaches the fallopian tube where it fuses with the ova to form a zygote. This is known as fertilization. Then the zygote divides to form an embryo. The embryo gets implanted into the uterus and the embryo development occurs in the uterus to form the fetus. Mother supplies nutrition to the growing fetus via placenta. The placenta helps in the exchange of nutrients, gas and removal of excretory products. The development of child inside the womb takes about 9 months and then the rhythmic uterine contractions lead to the delivery of baby outside the female body. As you can see, the fertilization process. If the egg is not fertilized, the uterine lining is shed off in the form of fluid, which is blood and mucus, and this is known as menstruation. It lasts for about 2 to 8 days. Reproductive health. Reproductive organs need a lot of care and hygiene, otherwise they are susceptible to many infections or diseases. These diseases spread through sexual routes and are known as sexually transmitted diseases. Example is gonorrhea, syphilis, warts, HIV/AIDS. Frequent pregnancy causes many health problems and also adds to already exploding population. Many ways have been devised to avoid pregnancy. The birth control methods are also called as contraception. Contraception can be achieved by following methods: mechanical barrier method, that is use of condoms; chemical methods, use of pills; use of contraceptive devices like copper T; and surgical methods like vasectomy in males and tubectomy in females. Thanks for watching. Please do like, share and subscribe.